Welcome to White Birch Tarot and Astrology. I'm doing this reading, it's just past midnight, so I think it's February 22nd. And this is about, I'm going to talk about the astrology first and see how long it goes, and then I might do two different videos, or I might, if I do the tarot at the end, I'll timestamp if you don't want to hear the astrology. But I'm going to talk briefly about Saturn and Neptune met at 0 degrees of Aries on the 20th, I think. I don't remember what time, but it's, you know, it's going to last a while. So it's a big deal, though, because it's the first degree of the zodiac. And Saturn and Neptune are opposites. I mean, they're kind of not opposite each other, but they're opposite energies. And of course, whenever things are opposite, they kind of need each other. I mean, they complement each other even though they clash. So I'm going to talk about what that means first before I read the cards. So if you're not interested, I will timestamp. But we have Neptune, which is idealism, romanticism, imagination, together with Saturn, which is reality and time and obstacles and discipline. And Saturn rules Capricorn and is a co-ruler of Aquarius, and Neptune rules Pisces. So they're starting a brand new cycle, and this is going to affect everyone. But if you have planets or points in your chart at the beginning degrees of Aries especially, but any of the fire signs or any of the cardinal signs, which would be Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, then you might feel especially. But I think the whole world, I think everybody's going to feel this, whether we believe it or not. So I'm just going to kind of discuss them just a little bit. So our idealism, Neptune, bumps up against the reality of Saturn. And so there's a difficult side and an easy side. So we have Saturn, which is discipline, integrity, boundaries, physical reality, obstacles, perseverance. And then on the other hand, we have Neptune, which is illusion, the imagination, romance with a capital R, not just, you know, like love romance. It is that too, but just romance, like loving fairy tales and fantasy and, you know, art and the imagination. A feeling of oneness, a feeling of like dissolving because it's the ocean. Maybe even a feeling of sacrifice. Neptunian energy can be very sacrificial. And Neptune rules the collective unconscious. So those are different things, you know, boundaries meeting dissolving. They're opposites. So what does that mean? Well, on the plus side or the easy side, it means that we have the energy where we can turn our dreams into reality. Seriously, we can get in touch with our creative, like your own soul, and manifest it out in the world to something you can see and touch and hear and communicate, like, you know, music or poetry or whatever speaks to your soul. And then Saturn's got to do with integrity. So when you put the two together, you find your deepest source of integrity. But it's like you know, what can you dream? Like, what can you imagine that you want? And you can make it real. Now, on the difficult side, reality itself can feel very illusory, very, you know, it can be elusive and confusing and difficult for you to know what's real and what isn't real. And if you think about, like, right now with AI and all the technology and stuff, that's happening. But even just on all kinds of levels, there could be that feeling of, is this doable? Is this real, or am I imagining it? Well, it's sometimes hard to tell when these two energies get together. But I will say that that Neptune at the beginning of Aries can be very like the Fool energy, which happens to be on one of the cards that came up. And so you can get in touch with that, you know, it can feel very real. But anyway, I was, got off my point here. I wrote down some stuff. So the line between what's real and what isn't can be blurred. And when you try to get in touch with your imaginative side, you can feel like you're bumping up against obstacles every which way you turn, because that's a real possibility. And you might need to get in touch with a lot of your inner discipline in order to deal with these obstacles. And the obstacles can really come up. You're not just imagining them. And it's like the challenge. I think the fairy cards I read last time, a few days ago, had the challenge. And I think that's one of the things that's coming up. It's like we're going to be challenged because we need to dig down and get our discipline together. So, and they're in Aries, okay? So this is not just a small change, because it's the 0. It's the very first sign of the zodiac at the very beginning. So it's a brand new beginning in a very real way. This can be the beginning of a new chapter in your life. And in Aries, it can be a new chapter of yourself, like who you are, who you feel you are. Your self-identity can change, who you want to be. It's kind of like you're wiping the slate clean and you get to start over. And of course, starting over means letting go of the old. So you can have to let go of some old things that you identify with, some old attachments, maybe just some old personality traits, just all kinds of things, old relationships. So there's a sense of adventure and possibility, but there can be a little sense of trepidation because it's not always easy to start over. So you can be feeling kind of, I won't say scared, but anxious. And of course, Saturn is very cautious energy, wants you to be sure. But with Neptune in the mix, we're not going to be sure. And Saturn energy can also be very cynical. But Neptunian energy is like deep-rooted faith. So you're going to have to draw on your faith at this time, probably. So, again, the energy is filled with possibility, but it can be tricky. Setting boundaries with other people will be very important, but you'll need to make sure that the boundaries you create come from your own personal integrity and not what you think other people need or want from you, because there's that Neptunian aspect of self-sacrifice. And also, since while Aries represents self-identity, it also represents anger, war, willpower, and leadership. So there can be some issues around that. You can be very triggered, and just like want to be like, yeah, I'm going to stand up for myself. You want to stand up for yourself, but you don't need to get angry about it. Aries energy stands up for the underdog. It can be very protective. And it's the kind of the knight on the white horse energy. So while it's true that we'll all be working on our own identities, we might find ourselves part of a larger movement to build a better society, one that protects everyone, even the vulnerable, and maybe even especially the vulnerable. So ultimately, Neptune represents the dream, and Saturn represents the actions that we need to take in order to make the dream real. So we clarify our beliefs, and then we have the patience and the stamina and the courage to put them into action. And I want to say there's two other things. One is that with this energy, you can sometimes feel like, yeah, I want to move ahead. And then things get kind of wonky and confusing, and you're like, I don't see the path in front of me. I don't know which way to go. So you can flip-flop between the two, and you can feel very one way one day and one way the next. So it's kind of like a roller coaster. And also, it's funny, I wrote this first, then I pulled the cards, and we get lots of knights charging in on horses. When I said, the knight coming in on the white horse. And it's funny because last night, I actually pulled the cards last night, but I was too tired. I went to bed. And just before I went to bed, I watched this thing on YouTube reminding me that that the Chinese New Year just started, I think on the 20th, was it? And it's the year of the fire horse. And I thought, oh my God, that makes so much sense with the Aries energy. And then I get 1, 2, 3. Oh my God, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 horses out of 8 cards. I got 5 majors. Okay, let me write down the time now. It is, wow, I talked a long time. Okay, this is a big deal. And again, it's going to last a while. I forget how long they're conjunct. Maybe a few weeks. I should have looked that up, but I'll check next time. And they stay in, Neptune stays in like 13 years in Aries, I think. And I forget when Saturn moves out. I have it written somewhere, but can I find it? No. And also Mercury goes retrograde on the 25th at 22 degrees of Pisces, and will go back and conjunct the North Node again. I think it happens on the spring equinox, which is weird. Okay, I have two quick quotes. This is from Novalis. I've read many quotes from Novalis, never looked this person up. I'll have to do that. The seat of the soul is there, where the outer and the inner worlds meet. Yeah, that's Saturn and Neptune coming together. And this is from the Bhagavad Gita. Fear not. What is not real never was and never will be. What is real always was and cannot be destroyed. I love that. Okay. So, you know, it's funny. I did the astrology, wrote that down. Then I came in to do the cards, and I kind of told the cards, now I don't necessarily want the reading to be about the conjunction. Just tell me the energy of the time, and it's all about, I think, I just can't miss it anyway. So, this is what we got. This is the, I forgot. No, I think I turned up my iPad. Can you see? I hope. This is the Welsh mythology called the Llewellyn Tarot Companion by Anna Marie Ferguson. That was my grandmother's name, Anna Marie, but not Ferguson. Okay. So, and this is interesting. This horse is all over the place. I saw this and I thought, really? This isn't what I expected. And then I thought to myself, oh, wait, this is perfect. Because in this deck, the Chariot is less about two horses going in two directions than it is about, he's the center point between, yes, these are opposing energies, but what he's doing is he's controlling them in order to move forward, which is exactly where we are with Saturn and Neptune. Again, if you know where this lands in your chart, it would be very interesting. So if you have trouble, I'll put my email address in the comments, and if I can, you know, I can maybe help you figure out how to you can get your chart done on astro.com. It's 100% free. I have nothing to do with them. I use them all the time. And if you want your house placement and your ascendant, though, you have to know your time of birth. If you just know the date and the place, you can get your planets and stuff, but you can't get your rising sign or your ascendant and stuff like that. Okay. That's the same thing. I meant to say your rising sign and your midheaven, because rising sign and ascendant are the same thing. Okay. So here we are. Here's Saturn and Neptune, or Neptune and Saturn. I just said that. It's the same. Never mind. But here we are, okay, we're straddling the energies. As I said, one energy is fixed and stubborn and material and cautious, which is Saturn, and one is imaginative and fluid and dreamy and confusing, and that's Neptune. So here comes basically Neptune out of the sea on some very real horses. I assume they're real. Maybe they're made out of water, but he's in control. So this is us. We have to stay in control, and by that I mean we can't be in control. So let me explain that. These energies are bigger than we are. So you have to go with the flow, but you also have to do your due diligence and remember to be disciplined and practical and dreamy at the same time. So there's going to be some surrendering, some letting go of the past, but there's also going to be having faith and the courage to step forward. Aries is all about courage, to step forward and go for what you want in your heart of hearts. And that comes up in a bit. Okay. Then I got the Five of Cups, which doesn't surprise me, because since we're starting a brand new cycle, that means we are acknowledging that the old one is over. On a very real level, whatever's going on in your life, I bet you can identify some place. And again, this won't just be in your outer world. It's where it's changed you as a person. You're not the same. It's interesting, they've got the river there. You know, you can't step in the same river twice. You can't, because it's never the same river. And actually, it's never the same moment. We feel like our life is a linear path that we're walking, and in one way it is, and in another way it's just a quantum blinking, you know. So anyway, this is about grieving what we have to let go of. It's just inevitable to feel grief when a chapter ends. So there's that aspect. And then look, here's the opposite. Here's the zero Aries energy. This is the Fool. And the Fool is, the zero energy is possibility. Anything is possible. We're starting over. Truly. So, you have to take a leap of faith if you're going to start over, because we're not sure exactly where we're going yet. That probably won't be visible for a while, but he looks like he's up for it. So here's our second, or actually count the 2 horses there. Here's our 3rd horse already. And these are the 2 energies you're going to be going back and forth between. The, oh my God, I have to let this go. I can't believe this is over. And I get to start a new, you know, I want to start something new. There's a real sense of adventure, I think. And then in comes Mr. Knight of Wands. Here's another horse. This is the year of the fire horse, as I said. Here he comes, literally, the fire sign horse. Here's Aries energy. He's ready to go. We're ready to go. Now, do we know exactly where we're going? And do we have all the tools yet and the map? No, not yet. But there's going to be a certain amount of faith and a certain amount of not only patience, but willpower, you know, if we're going to go for it. I think that's really interesting. We get, you know, 2 waters, and I don't know, I was going to say it's fire because Aries energy, and then it's water, but it's also earth. Actually, we don't have much in earth right now. Uranus is in Taurus, and I think that's the only earth we have right now. So anyway, this is really interesting. When I first drew this, I was like, huh? And then I thought about it, and I thought, you know what? This is perfect, especially this deck. I'm so glad I chose this deck, because this is the Hierophant, which represents our belief system. Oftentimes it represents belief structures, like authority, you know, authority figures. And right now, I mean, Saturn is about authority and structure. Neptune's the opposite. So right now, though, it's like starting over. So I find this image fascinating because he kind of looks like he's in some old ruins, perhaps a stone circle that's fallen down or something, and it's kind of misty off in the back. It's not very clear, but he's got this harp out here. Excuse me. And I think what he's doing is he's reconnecting with his intuition. So there's a sense of like old structures that have served you, authority. What can you rely on? What's always been there for you that you can rely on, that you know is true, and yet at the same time you need to take another look at everything, because you might want to reconsider some things you've believed. This is reconsidering, that's not the word I want to, reviewing and reevaluating your belief system, your spiritual belief system. And I feel like the harp is sitting there waiting for the wind to blow through it, and he's listening, he's meditating. He's got feathers all over, and he's just waiting for the call. He wants to know the truth. He's like, well, I think I know some things, but I don't know everything. Not that we're ever going to know everything, but he's waiting for the divine music to come in and let him know, where does my heart really want to be? What is my purpose? How can I serve myself and others? Very important card. I think probably the most important card in the whole reading, actually. Not that they're all not important, but so he's doing that on a, you know, an inner level. And then look, we get another knight. Here comes another guy charging in. So a new belief comes in, or a new thought pattern, a new idea comes in. We're sitting here like, what am I supposed to do? You know, yeah, I want to charge ahead. I want to start something new, but what? He's like, I've got an idea. Ideas come in. very quickly, perhaps. Let's see, Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces. That's not a great time to be thinking logical thoughts, but it's a great time for imagination to come in. This is more about, you might be overwhelmed with thoughts. They might just rush in, and you might have to kind of, hold them up to the harp of truth or the stones of truth or something, and make sure that they don't have to be logical, but they have to, Saturn insists that they make a little bit of sense. And then we get another major, we get the sun. So here come these ideas after we've meditated, and we get some kind of clarity. And this is the card that represents Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. And this is about being playful, childlike energy, creative energy, getting in touch with your heart of hearts and your purpose. This is a brilliant card to get, no pun intended, because it's about the truth. This is about the truth. If it's not true, don't have anything to do with it right now, because this is where we get a chance to start over, and you don't want to drag something in with you that is no longer valid. If it's not the real you, you don't want it, including relationships. If they don't support you, if they're not respectful, if they're not reciprocal, if they don't resonate with who you really are, then no. And then I was surprised to get this, but then I thought about it, and I thought, no, this is perfect. This is perfect, because the Hanged Man can be the negative side of Neptune, where it can be too self-sacrificing, but this is a different one, because he's up right side up. Although I do feel that even though he's not upside down, I do think this is about taking a second look at again, the word beliefs is very important in this. Taking another look at our belief system from a different angle, just to make sure. He's not going to rush ahead. I know there's a lot of rushing here, but we don't want to rush ahead. Yes, we need to be ready to change. Things can change on a moment's notice, and we are ready for change, but that doesn't mean you do anything too hasty, because Saturn isn't going to let you, and it's not going to go well. So he is deliberating. He's taking some time deliberately, I think, to contemplate again what serves. You know what do they say in the book for, I just want to see, I know they're 12. Let's see how they put it, if I can find it. They say restraint, suspension, stalemate, atonement, not being able to make one's influence felt, being held at a disadvantage, the dull pain born of constraint, being caught in a web, a freeze on life. I don't think so, no. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. The silence of constraint brings deeper self-knowledge and sharpens the intuitive senses, as a blind man sees, tapping a deep root, uncommon knowledge, a life pared down to the basics, a time of gestation in a borderland state between chapters in life, yes. Self-sacrifice in pursuit of knowledge or a cause, maybe. Saturn can be very sacrificing as well. Just on, because Saturn has to do with obligations, but we don't want to sacrifice because of an obligation, unless it's a true one, unless it's really in your heart. Energy drain, delays and suspension of plans, endurance, insight, being still in order to learn the secret to freeing oneself. Okay, just wondered how they put it. But I think this is a fascinating thing to end on. So we start with the Chariot in the ocean here, and we end up in the waters again. So again, I don't think that we're going to just all of a sudden, create a new life tomorrow and go, ta-da, here I am. But it really is a very astounding time, both on the inner and the outer. And I think this is an interesting reading. I didn't draw any shadow cards or oracle cards because I don't think we need any. But just remember, you're in the middle. You're in the middle. You're the fulcrum between, is that the right word? Between these two opposing energies. And it's up to you to navigate them. And you can. You can. But something, something is starting. We get to start something new. and that requires letting go of some old things. So might be some sorting out to do on an energetic level, a physical level, an emotional level, for sure. Okay, please leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the cards and how the astrology is treating you. And I will talk to you later. I'll probably post for Mercury going retrograde. And please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons, and I'll talk to you later. Blessings, everyone. Good night.